Doctor Who Season 3, Episodes 31 to 34, titled The War Machines, and clearly Stephen has left. Because between the gunfighters and the war machines, Stephen's gone. This is kind of like, well, I mean, it's not that much of a time jump. It's not much of a, like, oh, a lot of stuff has happened in the last few episodes. It's not like that with, like, Vicky, where it's like, oh, the end of season 2, and then, you know, here comes Dodo. You're like, well, clearly Vicky said goodbye. And all that. But I will say this. It was kind of hilarious of how they handled and how they said goodbye to Dodo. Dodo had this big traumatic thing happening to her in this story, where, like, the whole story is that there is this supercomputer that is created by scientists that could answer every question and answer every type of meme and every type of thing, and that this machine hypnotized its workers, its creators, along with a couple of citizens, along with our new companions by the end of this end of the story, which are Polly and Ben. Ben is the one who doesn't get hypnotized, but Polly does, and to create this war machine to attack London and the UK and all that. And the first victim is Dodo. And I'm like, well, you know, this is a good way to... I mean, seriously, this is a good way to exit a character if you want to exit a character, where this dramatic thing has happened to them. And you just need a scene of the Doctor and Dodo, and Dodo saying, hey, look, like, it's been fun all right, but this one was too much for me, and I was hypnotized and this and that. Like, it's one thing to be, you know, being on trial. It's one thing to be kidnapped by a wanted man from the Wild West, but being hypnotized, that's way too much. It's way too much. I think I need to stay here. Goodbye, Doctor, and his other companions. But no, that's not the case. They didn't do that. What they did was, like, Polly just said, oh, I got a letter. She's just going to stay in London. And I'm like, did something happen behind the scenes that we are not aware of? Like, did something happen? What that people are not aware of? What happened? Did, you know, Weir Hartnell became a little bit too much of a grumpy old man to the point the actress who played Dodo was a little bit like, I don't want to be on something anymore. Okay, she takes it and we just, like, he's your new companions, guys, now. I don't know what the situation is. Is this found really, really odd, really, really strange. How, like, you see, like, two companion leaves, and it feels very modern how they exit. Now, and, you know, you have Dodo who's just like, yeah, I'm out. And it's like, okay. Reminds me of the Chip Noir with companions leaving. It was like, you know, no signs, nothing always. Just like, oh, well, I think it's time to leave. I think it's time to go. Okay. Fine. But the War Machines itself, the story itself, I mean, I was kind of surprised that Howard Stark didn't show up. Marvel jokes. But the actual story itself, it feels, for the classic era, a very modern era, a viral era story, if you think about it. Because the characters feel, it just feels that, right? It feels that the story is so modernized and so, there's something that someone who's a fan of the revival and might not have tapped into the classic series much or at all, like me, I felt like, yeah, this could easily be slipped in as, like, someone could say, oh yeah, this is a black and white version of a modern Doctor Who story. Just, you know, everybody will be asking where are one of the 5 modern day Doctors, but outside of that, well, now 6, no, technically 7, and that, but It's really well put together, and you have some really cool moments like the doctor's just standing there when everybody's running away, and this killer robot's about to come towards him. You have it's weird also to have like a killer robot story before the killer robot story with the 10th planet, which is the introduction of the Cybermen. But which until so I know it's like a couple episodes in continuity in the or the episodes, but it's the next one is up on the list. So it's interesting that that's the next one. But yeah, it gives you, this thing has enough information for the audience. It gives you enough stakes. The characterizations don't feel so sci-fi to the point that you're like, everybody feels real, and even the Doctor feels very, human-esque in a way. And that the machines feels very grounded. It feels, for a show about a magical. It's I always aspire, Doctor Who's a sci-fi, the Magic School Bus, where you have, even though the Magic School Bus is technically sci-fi with the Magic School Bus, but where a guy, or let's say a person who has this magical time machine that goes through time and space and looks like a blue box from the 1960s. It's, for as much grounded as you can get, this is what it is. So probably back then, the concept of living computers and robots and that was so ahead of its time that, computers were probably like these very expensive things that are only scientists use, and that could do very, 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 very simple things for getting answers or something. So it's not as high class as it, I don't know. The whole robots taking over the world thing, I think now we're pitching Terminator versus War Machines, so it's like, we're pitching Cybermen more than that. But yeah, I mean, it's one of the stories where it's nothing much about it. Polly and Ben, my impressions on them, I mean, mostly Ben, because Polly's had been, hypnotized for a good chunk of the story, but I'm like, yeah, you're standard companion types. The companions don't really have much of a personality. Like, I feel like Ben is just gonna be Stephen or Ian, just with a different name and a different person with a more thicker of a British accent. Because he said this is the story that does the whole, where you going, governor? Like, it's that type of story that does that. But at the same time, also with Polly, it's like Dodo, Vicky, Susan. You can't really tell them apart outside of they're all played by different people. It's like, it just feels like, it feels like they had a bit of a trait, and then it's like, well, the companions are there to have the Doctor explain stuff. Something that the Doctor can talk to. Someone that the Doctor can talk to. And, basically, the companions are Wobbin, because that's what Wobbin is. It was the equation. It was like, Batman needs a Watson, and let's make a Watson a 10-year-old kid. That's literally what P.O.J. Wobbin was. So the kids could relate to them, because at the time comics was seen as like a kid stuff, back in the 40s. So yeah, I thought this story was fine and really well done and really well written, really well paced. So there was a couple of times I was like, wait, like, just double checking the time. I thought it was like a couple of minutes. I was like, well, we're only like 3 minutes till the end, until the end of that episode. I was like, okay, this is a really well done, really well paced. So I mean, it's one of those things where you just say, hey, it's great, and that's what it is. It's a great story.